What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks into what should be a simple morning interview only to face a barrage of accusations and disrespect from a host who seems determined to tear him down? In just 35 seconds, a routine promotional appearance transforms into an explosive confrontation that will leave Savannah Guthrie scrambling to save face as her own words come back to haunt her. Kevin Costner arrived at the Today Show studio that morning with one goal in mind: to talk about his latest project, a passion piece he had poured years of his life into creating. The veteran actor, known for his calm demeanor and professionalism, settled into the familiar chair across from Savannah Guthrie, Hoda Kotb, and Craig Melvin. The cameras rolled, the lights were bright, and everything seemed perfectly normal. But what started as a standard interview was about to spiral into something nobody in that studio could have predicted. Savannah opened with what appeared to be a straightforward question. "Kevin, thanks for being here. Your new project has been in development for years now. Some people are wondering if this is just another vanity project from an actor trying to stay relevant." The words hung in the air for a moment. Kevin's smile faltered slightly, but he maintained his composure. "Well, Savannah, I wouldn't call it a vanity project. This is a story I believe in deeply. It's about family, sacrifice, and the American spirit. I've invested not just my time, but my heart into this." Savannah leaned forward, her expression sharp. "But you've invested a lot of your own money too, haven't you? Tens of millions of dollars. Some might say that's reckless, especially at this stage of your career." Hoda shifted uncomfortably in her seat, sensing the tension building. Craig looked down at his notes, clearly not expecting this direction. Kevin took a breath, his jaw tightening slightly. "I've always believed in putting my money where my mouth is. If I'm going to ask audiences to invest their time in something, I need to show that I believe in it first. That's not reckless. That's commitment." "Commitment or desperation?" Savannah fired back without missing a beat. "Because let's be honest, Kevin, your last few films haven't exactly set the box office on fire. Is this project really about the story, or is it about trying to recapture past glory?" The studio fell silent. Even the crew members behind the cameras exchanged glances. This was not the friendly morning banter viewers expected from the Today Show. Kevin's expression hardened. "Savannah, I came here to talk about the work, about the incredible cast and crew who poured everything into this project. I didn't come here to defend my career or my choices to someone who seems more interested in tearing people down than having an actual conversation." Savannah's eyes flashed. "I'm just asking the questions that our viewers want answered. You're a public figure. You put yourself out there. That means you're open to scrutiny." "Scrutiny is one thing," Kevin replied, his voice steady but firm. "But what you're doing right now is something else entirely. You're not asking questions. You're making accusations disguised as questions." Hoda tried to interject, her voice gentle. "Kevin, I think what Savannah is trying to—" But Savannah cut her off. "I can speak for myself, Hoda." "Kevin, if you can't handle tough questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. This is what journalism is." Kevin let out a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Journalism? Is that what you call this? Because from where I'm sitting, this feels more like a personal attack than journalism." "What did I do to you, Savannah? Did I turn down an interview once? Did I not give you the soundbite you wanted?" "This isn't personal," Savannah insisted, though her tone suggested otherwise. "I'm doing my job. Maybe you're just not used to interviewers who don't fawn all over you." Craig finally spoke up, trying to defuse the situation. "Hey, let's take a step back here. Kevin, tell us about the cast. You've got some amazing talent in this project." But Kevin's attention remained fixed on Savannah. "You know what, Craig? I appreciate you trying to steer this back on track, but I think we need to address what's really happening here. Savannah just accused me of not being able to handle tough questions. But these aren't tough questions. Tough questions challenge you to think deeper about your work. What she's doing is trying to diminish everything I've worked for." Savannah crossed her arms. "So you admit you can't handle criticism?" "I can handle criticism just fine," Kevin shot back. "I've been in this industry for over 4 decades. I've faced real criticism from people who actually understand filmmaking and storytelling. What I won't tolerate is being disrespected on national television by someone who seems to think that being rude equals being a good interviewer." Hoda placed her hand on Savannah's arm, a clear signal to ease up. "Maybe we should move on to—" "No," Savannah interrupted, pulling her arm away. "If Kevin has something to say, let him say it. You clearly think you're above this, above having to answer for your choices." That kind of arrogance is exactly what people are tired of from Hollywood. The accusation hung there, stunning in its audacity. Kevin's eyes widened slightly, not in fear but in disbelief. Arrogance? Kevin repeated slowly. You're calling me arrogant? Savannah, you've spent the last 5 minutes attacking my work, my finances, my career, and my character. And when I try to defend myself, you call it arrogance. That's rich. I'm calling out what I see, Savannah said, her voice rising. An actor who thinks he's untouchable, who thinks he can just waltz in here and expect us to give him free publicity for a project that, frankly, sounds self-indulgent. Self-indulgent, Kevin echoed, his voice dangerously quiet now. You've never even seen it. You don't know anything about the story, the themes, the message, but you've already decided it's self-indulgent. Based on what exactly? Your gut feeling? Your personal bias against me? Craig tried again. Listen, I think emotions are running high here. Let's all just— No, Craig, Kevin said firmly, but not unkindly. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but this needs to be said. Savannah, I've been doing interviews for most of my adult life. I've sat across from journalists who asked hard questions, who pushed me, who challenged my perspectives. And I've always respected that. But what you're doing isn't journalism. It's bullying dressed up as journalism. And the fact that you can't see the difference is deeply troubling. Savannah's face flushed. How dare you call me a bully? I've built a career on asking the questions that need to be asked. And I've built a career on creating work that matters to people, Kevin countered. Work that entertains, that moves people, that makes them think and feel. Can you say the same? When was the last time you created something instead of just tearing down what others create? The studio was completely silent now. Every eye was on Savannah and Kevin. Hoda looked like she wanted to disappear. Craig stared at his desk. Savannah's voice turned icy. My job is to hold people accountable, to ask the tough questions. If that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you're not as confident in your work as you claim to be. Kevin leaned forward slightly. My work speaks for itself. It has for 40 years. But let me ask you something, Savannah. Why are you really doing this? What's the point of this interview? Because if it's to inform your viewers about my project, you've failed spectacularly. If it's to make yourself look tough and hard-hitting, well, there are better ways to do that than attacking someone who came here in good faith. I didn't attack you, Savannah protested. I asked legitimate questions. You called my life's work a vanity project in your first question, Kevin reminded her. You suggested I'm desperate and reckless. You accused me of arrogance. Those aren't questions, Savannah. Those are judgments. And you made them without knowing anything about what you're judging. Hoda finally found her voice again. Kevin, I want to apologize if this interview hasn't gone the way you expected. We really do want to hear about your project. Kevin turned to Hoda, his expression softening. Hoda, I know you do, and I appreciate that. But I can't sit here and pretend that what just happened is okay. It's not okay. It's not professional, and it's not fair. Savannah wasn't backing down. Life isn't fair, Kevin. You of all people should know that. You're a millionaire many times over. You've had incredible success. Forgive me if I don't feel sorry for you having to answer a few uncomfortable questions. This isn't about feeling sorry for me, Kevin said, his patience clearly wearing thin. This is about basic respect. This is about how we treat each other. You can be tough without being cruel. You can ask hard questions without being disrespectful, but you've chosen not to do that. You've chosen to use this platform to attack me personally, and I have to wonder why. Maybe because someone needs to? Savannah shot back. Maybe because too many people in your position are used to everyone kissing up to them. Maybe because real journalism means not being afraid to challenge powerful people. Kevin shook his head slowly. I'm not afraid of being challenged. What I'm opposed to is being ambushed. There's a difference between a challenging interview and what this has become. And the fact that you can't see that difference tells me everything I need to know about how you view your role here. Craig made one more attempt to salvage the situation. Kevin, we're running short on time, but if you could just tell us briefly about the project itself. But Kevin was already removing his microphone. His movements were deliberate, controlled. There was no anger in his actions, just a quiet determination. What are you doing? Savannah asked, genuine surprise in her voice for the first time. Kevin looked at her directly. I'm leaving. I came here to have a conversation about something I care deeply about. Instead, I walked into an ambush. I don't need this, and more importantly, I don't deserve it. My work stands on its own merit. It doesn't need to be defended against baseless attacks from someone who hasn't even taken the time to understand what it's about. You can't just leave in the middle of an interview, Savannah said, her composure finally cracking. I can, and I am, Kevin replied calmly. You've made it clear that you have no interest in actually discussing my work. You just want to score points by taking shots at me. Well, I'm not going to sit here and be your punching bag. That's not what I signed up for, and it's not what your viewers deserve to see. Hoda looked stricken. Kevin, please, let's just start over. We can. Kevin turned to her, his expression kind. Hoda, you're a class act. You always have been, but I can't stay. This has crossed a line. Savannah has crossed a line. And if I stay, I'm essentially saying that this kind of behavior is acceptable. It's not. He stood up, carefully placing the microphone on the chair. The crew members looked at each other, unsure of what to do. This didn't happen on the Today Show. Guests didn't just walk out. Savannah's face was red now, a mix of embarrassment and anger. This is incredibly unprofessional. We had an agreement. You committed to this interview. Kevin paused, looking back at her. You're right. I did commit to an interview. An interview. Not a character assassination. There's a difference. And if you can't see that, then you need to take a long, hard look at what you're doing here. Don't lecture me about professionalism, Savannah snapped. You're the one walking off a live television show. Yes, I am, Kevin agreed. Because sometimes the most professional thing you can do is refuse to participate in something that's fundamentally wrong. What you did here today was wrong, Savannah. You used your platform not to inform or enlighten, but to attack. And I won't be a party to that. Craig stood up as well, trying to physically position himself between them. Kevin, man, I get it. I understand you're upset. But please, let's just take a breath here. Kevin looked at Craig with genuine respect. Craig, you're a good guy. You tried to keep this on track. I appreciate that. But this isn't about taking a breath. This is about drawing a line. This is about saying that there are consequences when you treat people the way Savannah has treated me today. Consequences? Savannah laughed, but it was a harsh, brittle sound. You think walking off is some kind of power move? All you're doing is proving that you can't handle the heat. No, Savannah, Kevin said quietly. What I'm proving is that I won't tolerate being treated with contempt. What I'm proving is that I value myself and my work enough not to sit here while you belittle both. If you think that's a weakness, then we have very different definitions of strength. Hoda tried one last time. Kevin, our viewers love you. They want to hear about your project. Please don't leave like this. Kevin's expression softened again when he looked at Hoda. I know they do, Hoda, and I love them too. That's actually part of why I'm leaving. Because they deserve better than to watch this train wreck continue. They deserve better than to see me sit here and take abuse. They deserve to see someone stand up and say that this isn't okay. You're being dramatic, Savannah said, but there was less conviction in her voice now. Am I? Kevin asked. Let me ask you something, Savannah. If someone spoke to you the way you've spoken to me today, how would you feel? If someone questioned your competence, your motives, your entire career in the span of 5 minutes, how would you react? Savannah opened her mouth, but no words came out. That's what I thought, Kevin said. It's easy to dish it out. It's harder to take it. But that's the thing about respect, isn't it? It's a two-way street. You want me to respect your role as a journalist, but you've shown no respect for me as an artist or as a person. I was doing my job, Savannah insisted, but her voice was quieter now. Your job is to inform and engage, Kevin replied. Your job is to bring out interesting conversations that benefit your audience. What you did today benefits no one. It doesn't inform anyone about my project. It doesn't engage anyone in a meaningful pot out. All it does is create conflict for the sake of conflict. And that's not journalism. That's not even entertainment. It's just sad. The weight of his words settled over the studio. Even the crew members who had been frantically trying to figure out what to do were now just watching, listening. Craig spoke softly. Kevin, for what it's worth, I'm sorry this went down this way. You didn't deserve this. Kevin nodded at him. Thanks, Craig. That means a lot. You're one of the good ones. He looked at Hoda. You too, Hoda. Keep being the voice of reason around here. God knows this place needs it. Then he turned back to Savannah one final time. I hope you think about what happened here today. I hope you ask yourself if this is really the kind of interviewer you want to be, because you're better than this, Savannah. Or at least, you could be if you chose to be. Don't patronize me, Savannah said, but there was less fire in it now. I'm not patronizing you, Kevin said. I'm being honest with you, which is more than you've been with me. You came into this with an agenda. You wanted to make me look bad, to knock me down a peg. And maybe you think you succeeded, but all you've really done is shown your viewers who you really are when the cameras are rolling. He took a step toward the exit, then paused. You know what the sad part is? I actually have a lot of respect for tough interviewers. I respect people who ask hard questions, who dig deep, who aren't afraid to challenge me, but that's not what you did. You just wanted to score cheap points. And in doing so, you've diminished yourself far more than you could ever diminish me. Savannah's eyes glistened, though whether from anger or something else was hard to tell. Get out then. If you want to leave so badly, just go. I am, Kevin said simply, but I want you to understand something. This isn't about you winning or me losing. This isn't about who got the last word or who looked better. This is about treating people with basic human decency. And today, you failed at that. I hope tomorrow you do better. With that, Kevin Costner walked off the Today Show set. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. The cameras kept rolling, catching every moment of his departure. Savannah sat frozen in her chair, her face a mixture of emotions. Hoda looked down at her hands. Craig stared after Kevin, a look of respect on his face. Behind the cameras, producers were frantically trying to figure out how to handle the situation. Should they cut to commercial? Should they address what just happened? Should they pretend it didn't happen at all? But before any decisions could be made, Kevin reached the studio door. He pushed it open and walked through without looking back. The door closed behind him with a soft click that somehow felt louder than any shout. Back on set, Savannah finally found her voice. Well, that was certainly unexpected. Craig looked at her, and for a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or disapproval. Yeah, he said quietly. It was. Hoda cleared her throat. We need to go to commercial. As the commercial break music started, the three hosts sat in uncomfortable silence. The crew around them moved with purpose, but the energy in the studio had fundamentally shifted. Something had broken that couldn't be easily fixed. Savannah removed her own microphone, her hands shaking slightly. She looked at Hoda, then at Craig, but neither of them would meet her eyes. In the hallway outside the studio, Kevin Costner paused for just a moment. He took a deep breath, straightened his jacket, and allowed himself a small, sad smile. He had come to talk about a project he loved. Instead, he had been forced to defend his dignity. He had done what he needed to do. He had drawn a line. And as he walked toward the exit, his head held high, he knew he had made the right choice. Some things are more important than publicity. Some things are more important than playing nice. Self-respect is one of those things. And no interview, no matter how big the platform, is worth sacrificing that. The morning sun was bright as Kevin stepped out of the building. Somewhere behind him, a television show was scrambling to figure out what to say next. But that was no longer his concern. He had said what needed to be said. He had stood up for himself. And sometimes, that's all you can do. Inside the studio, as the commercial break ended, Savannah composed herself. She smiled at the camera, that practiced television smile that revealed nothing. Welcome back, she said, her voice steady. Up next, we'll be talking about fall fashion trends. But everyone watching knew that something had just happened. Something real and raw and completely unscripted. Kevin Costner had walked into that studio as a guest. He had walked out as something else entirely, a man who knew his worth and wasn't afraid to defend it, even when it meant walking away from one of the biggest platforms in morning television. And in living rooms across the country, viewers sat with their coffee cups frozen halfway to their lips, processing what they had just witnessed. Some would side with Savannah, believing she was just doing her job. Others would side with Kevin, seeing him as a man pushed too far by an interviewer who crossed the line. But everyone agreed on one thing. They had just watched something they would never forget. A moment of genuine conflict, genuine emotion, genuine humanity breaking through the carefully constructed facade of morning television. For better or worse, it was real. And in a world of carefully scripted interactions and manufactured moments, that realness was both shocking and somehow strangely refreshing. The interview that was supposed to promote a movie had instead become a masterclass in standing up for yourself. Kevin Costner had come to talk about his art. Instead, he had created a moment that would be talked about, analyzed, and remembered far longer than any promotional interview ever could be. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is simply refusing to accept being treated poorly. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. And on that morning, in that studio, Kevin Costner had done exactly that. Not with anger or theatrics, but with quiet dignity and unwavering self-respect. The show went on, as shows always do. But everyone in that studio, and everyone watching at home, knew they had witnessed something significant. A line had been crossed, and then another line had been drawn. And in the end, it was Kevin Costner who had drawn it. With the simple act of standing up, removing his microphone, and walking away from a situation that no longer served him or anyone else. That, perhaps more than anything else, was the real story of what happened that morning on the Today Show.